Zaraki had heard the stories about humans since she was young. Everyone in the galaxy knew about them. They came from a dangerous planet called Earth, a world so harsh that only the strongest creatures could survive there. The humans who lived there had to fight every day just to stay alive. They were predators. They were violent. They were deadly. The other species in the galaxy were afraid of humans. Even the great Kralgath warriors, who had conquered dozens of planets, stayed away from human ships. The Galactic Council members spoke about humans in quiet voices, as if saying their name too loudly might summon them. Now Zaraki was going to meet one. Her supervisor had told her the news yesterday. A human would be coming to their research ship, the Stellar Dawn. His name was Jake Morrison. He was a lieutenant in the human navy. He would work with Zaraki to help their ship travel safely through human space. Zaraki was a xenolinguist. Her job was to study alien languages and help different species talk to each other. She was good at her job. She had worked with 12 different species before. But she had never worked with a human. Her supervisor, Orth, was a Vexian. He was old and wise. When he told Zaraki about the human, his gills moved nervously. He said it was an honor. He said the Galactic Council required it. But Zaraki could see he was worried too. She spent 3 hours preparing for the human's arrival. She read every file she could find about humans. The files said humans could survive injuries that would kill other species. They could run for hours without stopping, chasing their prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. They had special parts in their brains that made them react with instant violence when they felt threatened. The worst thing was the smile. The file said humans showed their teeth before they attacked. It was called a smile. When a human pulled back its lips and showed its white teeth, it meant danger was coming. Zaraki checked the time again. 2 more hours, then 1 hour, then 30 minutes. Her skin changed colors rapidly, showing her fear. She was blue, then gray, then blue again. She could not control it. When the airlock finally opened, Zaraki forced herself to walk toward it. She kept her eyes down, looking at the floor. Her hands were shaking. She held her datapad tightly to stop the shaking. "You must be Zaraki," a voice said. It was deep and rough, like rocks grinding together. "I'm Jake, really glad to be working with you." Zaraki looked up quickly, then wished she had not. The human was huge. He was much taller than her. His shoulders were wide and strong. His uniform was dark and fit him tightly, showing his muscles. His eyes were green, a strange color she had never seen before. They were looking right at her. Predator eyes, forward-facing eyes that could track prey. She looked down again fast. Her breathing was difficult. "Ah, yes, affirmative," she said. Her translator device was having trouble keeping up with her racing thoughts. "I am assigned as your xenolinguist contact." "Awesome," the human said. Zaraki waited for whatever came next. She could smell him now. He smelled different from any species she had met before. "I brought some stuff from Earth, coffee mostly. Do your species drink anything hot? I wasn't sure what you'd like, so I figured I'd just ask first." Zaraki's skin flashed yellow. She was confused. Was this a trick? Some Earth predators gave food to their prey to make them feel safe before attacking. She had read about that. "I do not require feeding," she said carefully. She took a step back. There was silence. Zaraki looked up again just a little. The human had tilted his head. He was studying her with those intense green eyes. Then it happened. His face changed. His lips pulled back. His teeth showed. White teeth, perfectly straight, designed for tearing meat. The corners of his eyes wrinkled. It was the smile. The famous human smile that came before violence. Zaraki froze completely. Every part of her body told her to run. Her skin flashed through many colors fast, showing her panic. But she could not move. She just stood there waiting for the attack. The attack did not come. Instead, the human did something strange. He stepped backward, giving her more space. The smile disappeared from his face. His teeth were hidden again. "Hey, sorry," he said. His voice was softer now. "I'm coming on too strong, aren't I? First contact jitters. I'm really excited to be here, but I can see I'm making you uncomfortable. Should we start over?" Zaraki's skin was still flashing confused colors. The human had apologized. Predators did not apologize to their prey, and he had moved away from her. He had made himself less threatening. Nothing in her training had prepared her for this. "I do not understand," she said quietly. Jake seemed to think about this. Then he slowly sat down on the floor. He sat cross-legged, making himself smaller. Now he was below her eye level. He was in a weak position. No predator would do that. Zaraki's mind was working hard. Nothing made sense. This human was not acting like the files said humans acted. "I think maybe we got off on the wrong foot," Jake said from the floor. "Can I ask you something? What have you heard about humans?" The question was so direct that Zaraki answered without thinking. "That you are dangerous, violent, that you come from a death world and that you conquered it through ruthlessness, that you smile before you kill." She closed her mouth quickly. She had just insulted him. Now he would be angry. Now he would attack, but Jake did not get angry. His face changed again, but not to anger. His eyes became soft. He let out a long breath. "Yeah," he said quietly. "I was afraid of that. The war stories spread faster than anything else, don't they?" "War stories?" Zaraki asked. "The Kralgath conflict," Jake said. 15 years ago. It's all anyone in the galaxy remembers about us. We fought hard because we had to. But that's not all we are." He reached slowly into a bag beside him. His movements were careful and slow. He pulled out a small flat device. "This is my tablet. Would it be okay if I showed you some things? Pictures from Earth?" Zaraki was curious now. Curiosity was stronger than fear. She moved a little closer, but not too close. "Proceed." Jake touched the screen and turned it toward her. The image showed a small human. Much smaller than Jake. It had long hair on its head and wore bright, colorful clothes. The small human was holding a furry animal with a long tail. "This is my niece Sophie," Jake said. His voice was different now, warm, gentle. "She's 7 years old. This is her cat, Mr. Whiskers. She made me promise to take a picture of every alien species I meet so I can show her when I get home." Zaraki stared at the image. The small human was doing that teeth-showing thing. That smile. And Jake was in the background of the picture, smiling too. But the small human looked so innocent. So harmless. "So happy, your offspring?" Zaraki asked. "My brother's kid," Jake explained. "I've got 2 nieces and a nephew. They're the reason I took this assignment, actually. They wanted to know what aliens really look like, not just what they see in videos." He moved his finger on the screen. Another image appeared. This one showed Jake with 3 small humans around him. All of them were smiling, all showing teeth. But they were in a safe place, clearly happy, clearly together as family. Zaraki looked at the image for a long time. Something was clicking in her mind. The teeth showing was not happening before an attack. It was happening in a moment of happiness, of family, of safety. "The smile," she said slowly. "It is not aggression?" Jake shook his head. "No, it's happiness, joy. We do it when we're pleased, when we're comfortable with someone. When we want to show we mean no harm." He stopped, then added, "I smiled when I first saw you because I was happy to meet you. Not because I wanted to scare you. I'm really sorry I did." Zaraki's skin changed to thoughtful green with traces of curious yellow. "I was taught incorrectly." "Not incorrectly," Jake said gently. "Just incompletely. Humans are complicated. We can be dangerous when we need to be, yeah. But mostly we're just people trying to get by. Same as everyone else." For the first time since Jake arrived, Zaraki felt less afraid. She moved closer to see the tablet screen better. "Tell me more about Earth," she said. Jake settled more comfortably on the floor. He smiled again, but this time Zaraki did not flinch. He showed her pictures of vast oceans and tall mountains. He showed her cities with millions of humans living together peacefully. He showed her art and music and culture. He told her about his family, about his home in a place called Oregon, about how he loved hiking in the forests, about his nephew who wanted to be a scientist, about his oldest niece who played something called soccer. Zaraki listened carefully. She was learning so much, not just about Earth, but about humans. They had families. They had hobbies. They had dreams and fears and hopes just like every other species. Maybe humans were the most misunderstood species in the galaxy. Maybe they were not monsters at all. Maybe they were just people who had been judged too quickly by a galaxy that only knew their worst moments. The days after Jake arrived were strange for Zaraki. Everything she thought she knew about humans was being proven wrong. Jake was patient with her. He moved slowly so he would not scare her. He never raised his voice. He always seemed to know when she was uncomfortable. But the biggest change came when she started watching how he acted with the rest of the crew. The Stellar Dawn had 43 crew members from 11 different species. Most of them were as afraid of Jake as Zaraki had been at first. Jake knew this. He was always careful around them. When he walked through the corridors, he would move to the side to give others room. When he spoke in meetings, he kept his voice calm and even. When someone looked afraid, he would back away and give them space. One crew member, a young Quellan engineer named Pix, was especially nervous around Jake. Quellans were small and delicate with thin arms and big eyes. Pix would jump every time Jake entered a room. Zaraki watched Jake work with Pix on a repair project one day. The ship's main computer had a problem and they both had been assigned to fix it. Pix was clearly terrified. He kept his distance from Jake, always staying on the opposite side of the room. Jake noticed. He did not say anything about it. He just worked quietly, explaining what he was doing in a soft voice, asking Pix questions about the Quellan technology he was not familiar with. He treated Pix like an expert, like someone whose knowledge was valuable. After an hour, Pix started to relax. He moved a little closer. He started explaining things without being asked. By the end of the repair, they were working side by side. Pix even laughed at something Jake said. It was the first time Zaraki had seen any crew member laugh around the human. That evening, Zaraki found Jake in the observation lounge. It was a quiet room with large windows that showed the stars outside. Jake was sitting in a chair holding a cup of his coffee, looking out at space. "May I join you?" Zaraki asked. "Of course," Jake said. He moved over to make more room for her. He smiled, and Zaraki smiled back in her own way, making her skin flash bright blue. They sat quietly for a moment. Then Zaraki spoke. "You are very patient with the crew." Jake took a drink of his coffee. "They're scared, I get it. I'd be scared too if I was them. But it must be difficult," Zaraki said. "To be feared when you mean no harm?" Jake was quiet for a long time. "Yeah," he finally said. "It's hard. But I understand why they're afraid. Humans have done some things in the past that earned us this reputation. The Kralgath War was brutal. We did what we had to do, but it was still violent. Still scary to watch." "Tell me about the war," Zaraki said. "I have read the official reports, but I want to hear it from a human." Jake set down his coffee cup. The Kralgath had invaded 3 systems. They were enslaving whole planets. Millions of people were suffering under their rule. They refused every attempt at diplomacy. Every peace offer was rejected. Then they attacked New Ares, one of our colony worlds. His voice got harder but not angry, just serious. "We lost 30,000 people in that attack, civilians, families, kids. The Kralgath thought we would back down. They thought we would negotiate. Instead, we mobilized. And you defeated them completely," Zaraki said. "We did," Jake confirmed. "It took 3 years, but we pushed them back system by system. We used tactics they had never seen before. We adapted faster than they could respond. We were relentless," he looked at Zaraki. "That's what scared the galaxy. Not that we won, but how we won. We didn't stop. We didn't give up. We kept coming no matter what they threw at us. That's the human way. When we decide something needs to be done, we do it. No matter how long it takes. The galaxy calls this ruthlessness," Zaraki said. "The galaxy isn't wrong," Jake said. "In war, we are ruthless. We protect what's ours and we don't apologize for it. But that's not the whole story." "What is the rest of the story?" Zaraki asked. Jake picked up his tablet from the table beside him. He pulled up a file and showed it to Zaraki. It was a news article from 5 years ago. The headline talked about human engineers helping to rebuild Kralgath cities that had been damaged in the war. "After the Kralgath surrendered, we helped them rebuild," Jake said. "We sent engineers, doctors, teachers. We established trade agreements. We shared technology. We turned our worst enemy into a partner." He pulled up another file. This one showed human and Kralgath children playing together at a school on a border world. "This is what humans do after the fighting stops. We extend our hand. We offer friendship. We try to build something better." Zaraki looked at the images carefully. "Why does the galaxy not know this?" "Because fear spreads faster than hope," Jake said simply. "A story about a battle gets told over and over. A story about rebuilding schools? That's boring. That doesn't get repeated at parties or told to warn children to be careful." He looked back out at the stars. "But that's okay. We're not doing it for recognition. We're doing it because it's right. Because we remember what it's like to destroy things and we've learned that building is harder but better." Zaraki thought about this for a long time. She watched Jake's face in the reflection of the window. He looked tired but peaceful. There was no anger in him, no hidden violence waiting to explode. Just a person doing his job and trying his best to be good. You said you have a nephew who wants to be a scientist, Zaraki said, changing the subject. Jake's face lit up. He smiled wide. Yeah, Danny, he's 9. He's obsessed with black holes right now. Drives his parents crazy asking questions they can't answer. I promised him I'd learn everything I could out here and teach him when I get back. You miss your family, Zaraki observed. Every day, Jake admitted. But this assignment is important. Not just for the mission, but for what it represents. Every positive interaction I have with aliens, every friendship I make, that's one more step toward humans being understood instead of feared. Is that why you're so patient? Zaraki asked. That's part of it, Jake said. But mostly I'm patient because that's who I want to be. My mom always said that how you treat people when it's hard, that's who you really are. It's easy to be nice when everyone likes you. It's harder when they're scared of you. But that's when it matters most. Zaraki felt a deep respect for this human. He had every reason to be frustrated or angry. He was judged before anyone met him. He was feared for things he had never done, yet he responded with kindness and patience. I am glad you came to our ship, Zaraki said. Jake turned to her and smiled. I'm glad I came too. You gave me a chance. That's all I needed. Over the next week, Zaraki watched Jake continue to win over the crew. He helped Pix with another repair, and the Quellan actually initiated conversation this time. He taught 3 crew members how to play chess, a human game of strategy. He shared his coffee with anyone who wanted to try it, even though most species found it too bitter. Slowly, the fear was fading. Crew members stopped avoiding Jake in the corridors. They started asking him questions about Earth. They invited him to join their meal groups. The human was becoming part of their community. Zaraki realized something important. Jake had not changed anyone's mind by arguing or by proving he was not dangerous. He had changed their minds by simply being himself. By being kind, patient, and genuine. By showing rather than telling. It was a lesson about humanity that no file or report could have taught her. Humans were not just warriors or predators or dangerous deathworlders. They were people. Complex, contradictory, capable of both great violence and great kindness. And like all people, they wanted to be understood. She thought about all the species in the galaxy who still feared humans. All the ones who had only heard the war stories. They needed to know what she now knew. They needed to meet people like Jake. Zaraki made a decision. She would document everything she was learning. She would write reports, give presentations, share the truth about humans with anyone who would listen. It was her job as a xenolinguist to bridge gaps between species. And this was the most important gap she had ever encountered. The emergency came 3 weeks after Jake joined the Stellar Dawn. Zaraki was on the bridge working on translation protocols when the distress signal arrived. A ship was in trouble. A Quellan freighter had suffered engine failure near a dangerous area of space, filled with debris and strong gravity. Captain Vennick was a Tyrellian. His species was known for being careful and thoughtful. He studied the data on his screen, his scales shifting colors as he thought. This is difficult, he said. The gravitational forces in that area are unpredictable. If we attempt a rescue and miscalculate, we could damage our own ship. Captain, we should help them, Jake said from his station. His voice was calm but firm. The risk is considerable, Captain Vennick replied. His scales showed uncertainty. We are a research vessel, not a rescue ship. They have 73 crew members aboard, Jake said, reading from his console. Mostly civilians. Engineers and their families. If we don't help them, they'll be pulled into that debris field within 6 hours. They won't survive. Captain Vennick's scales rippled. Lieutenant Morrison, I understand your concern, but we must consider our own crew's safety first. With respect, Captain, I'm formally requesting that we render aid, Jake said. He stood up and faced the captain directly. The Terran Navy's regulations are clear on this. If we're capable of assisting without undue risk to this vessel, we are obligated to help. And I believe we can do this safely. The bridge went quiet. Everyone was watching. Zaraki held her breath. She had never seen Jake be this direct before. His jaw was tight. His eyes were focused. This was the intensity that other species found frightening, but he was not being threatening. He was being insistent. There was a difference, and if I refuse, Captain Vennick asked quietly. Then I'll note it in my report to the Galactic Council and the Terran Naval Command, Jake replied evenly. But I'm hoping you won't refuse, sir, because I think you know it's the right thing to do. The silence stretched on. Zaraki could feel the tension in the air. Then Captain Vennick's scales settled into a pattern that showed acceptance. Very well, the captain said. Prepare a rescue operation. But you will personally supervise the gravitational calculations, Lieutenant Morrison. If anything goes wrong, it will be on your head. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir, Jake said. For the next 4 hours, Zaraki watched Jake work. He moved between stations on the bridge, checking calculations, running simulations, working with the navigation officer to plot the safest course. His focus was complete. He double-checked everything 3 times. When it was time to execute the rescue, Jake volunteered to be part of the team that would board the damaged freighter. We'll need to help evacuate the injured, he said. And I can carry more weight than most species. I should go. Zaraki surprised herself by volunteering too. I should accompany you. If there are communication difficulties, you will need a xenolinguist. Jake looked at her for a moment, then nodded. Okay, let's suit up. 20 minutes later, Zaraki was in an environmental suit following Jake through the airlock into the damaged Quellan ship. The corridor inside was dark. Emergency lights flickered. The air smelled wrong, full of chemicals and fear. The Quellan crew was in bad shape. Some were injured from when the engines failed. Others were panicking, running back and forth, unsure what to do. Their fear pheromones filled the air, even through Zaraki's suit. Jake moved among them with calm authority. He spoke in a soothing voice, giving clear instructions. Everyone stay calm. We're here to help. We're going to get you all to safety. He helped carry a wounded Quellan engineer to the evacuation shuttle. The engineer was much lighter than Jake, and the human carried him easily. He spoke gently to the injured man, telling him he would be okay, that medical help was waiting. Zaraki guided groups of Quellans toward the shuttles. She translated Jake's instructions, making sure everyone understood. The Quellans were scared, but they trusted the calm human who moved among them without fear. Then a Quellan mother grabbed Jake's arm. Her translator was damaged, crackling with static. My son, she said desperately. He is trapped in the lower engineering section. The gravity is failing there. I cannot reach him, please. Jake did not hesitate. I'll get him. Zaraki, can you guide this group to Shuttle 2? Zaraki checked her datapad. The lower engineering section was in bad shape. The structural integrity was critical. It was dangerous. Very dangerous. Jake, you should not go there, she said. It is too risky. I know, Jake said. He looked at her and his expression was determined but not reckless. But there's a kid down there. I've got to try. He was already moving, following the mother's directions toward the lower sections of the dying ship. Zaraki wanted to argue, wanted to make him see reason, but she knew he would not change his mind. This was who he was. She did what he asked. She guided the group to safety, loaded them onto the shuttle. But her skin kept flashing anxious colors the whole time. The minutes felt like hours. The other evacuees were loaded. The shuttles were full. But Jake had not returned. We must leave now, the shuttle pilot said. He was already reaching for the controls. The freighter's hull is breaking apart. Wait, Zaraki said, pressing against the viewport.
He is still inside. Then she saw him.
Jake came out of an access corridor at a full run. He was carrying the Quellan child in his arms. The boy was wrapped in emergency shielding. Jake was moving fast, taking huge leaps through the failing gravity. Behind him, a support beam collapsed. It missed him by inches. Debris was falling all around him, but he kept running, protecting the child with his body. He reached the shuttle just as the freighter began its final collapse. The moment he was through the door, the pilot launched. They pulled away fast. 30 seconds later, the freighter tore itself apart in the debris field. Jake set the child down carefully. He checked the boy over for injuries. The child was scared but unhurt. His mother was crying with relief, touching Jake's arms, thanking him over and over in Quellan. Other crew members surrounded Jake. They touched his shoulders, expressing gratitude in their own ways. The human was breathing hard. His face was red from exertion, but he was smiling. Zaraki pushed through the crowd to reach him. You risked your life, she said, for a child not of your species, for people who think your kind is dangerous. Jake looked at her. His green eyes were serious. That's exactly why I did it, he said. Because maybe if enough people see that humans are willing to help, willing to risk ourselves for others, they'll stop thinking we're monsters. Zaraki's skin changed to a pattern she had only displayed once before, on the day she earned her xenolinguist certification, deep blue with gold traces, the color of profound respect. I understand now, she said. You do not smile before you attack. You smile before you save. Jake's smile grew wider. We smile because we have hope, he said. Hope that things can be better. Hope that we can help. Hope that maybe someday we'll be judged by our best actions instead of our worst. The rescued Quellans would not stop thanking Jake. They crowded around him, these small, delicate beings surrounding the large human who had saved them. They were not afraid anymore. They saw him for what he truly was. Not a monster. A hero. When they returned to the Stellar Dawn, word of the rescue spread quickly. The crew looked at Jake differently now. The fear in their eyes had changed to something else. Respect, admiration, trust. That night, Zaraki started writing her report. Not the official incident report, but something else. A personal account of what she had witnessed. She wrote about Jake's courage, his compassion, his immediate decision to help despite the danger. She wrote about how humans were capable of great violence, yes, but they were equally capable of great kindness. And when faced with a choice between their own safety and helping others, they often chose to help. The galaxy needed to know this. They needed to understand that humanity's reputation was incomplete, that the stories they told about humans were missing the most important parts. Zaraki had been terrified of Jake when he first arrived. She had believed all the warnings, all the stories about ruthless Deathworlders who conquered through violence. But now she knew better. Now she knew that humans were not monsters. They were people. People who smiled not as a threat but as a promise that they would stand up for those who needed help, a promise that they would risk themselves for strangers, a promise that they believed in something better than fear and violence. Jake Morrison had shown her this, and now it was her responsibility to show the galaxy. After the rescue, everything changed on the Stellar Dawn. The crew no longer avoided Jake in the corridors. They sought him out. They asked him questions about Earth and humans. They invited him to their social gatherings. Some even started copying his habits, drinking coffee in the morning and saying hello with a wave instead of the traditional gestures of their own species. Zaraki found herself in a new role. Other crew members came to her with questions about Jake and about humans in general. They wanted to understand. They wanted to learn. And Zaraki was happy to teach them. She explained that human smiles were expressions of happiness, not threats. She showed them how to read other human facial expressions. She taught them about human customs and social rules. Slowly, the fear that had surrounded Jake began to fade completely. One evening, several weeks after the rescue, Zaraki found Jake in the observation lounge. It had become his favorite place on the ship. He was sitting in his usual chair looking out at the stars, holding his cup of coffee. "May I join you?" Zaraki asked. "Always," Jake said, smiling. He moved over to give her more room. Zaraki settled into the chair beside him. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. This had become their routine. After their shifts ended, they would meet here and talk about everything and nothing. "I have been thinking about my people's first contact with humanity," Zaraki said. "We were not part of the Kralgoth War, but we heard the stories from those who were. The Kralgoth had invaded 3 systems. They had enslaved entire populations. They refused all peaceful solutions. When they attacked a human colony world, your people responded with what the galaxy saw as terrifying efficiency." Jake nodded slowly. "The Battle of New Ares. Yeah, we lost a lot of good people in that fight. But you won," Zaraki said. "And the way you won frightened the entire galaxy. The Kralgoth had never been defeated so completely. Other species saw what humanity was capable of and decided you were too dangerous to provoke." "I know," Jake said quietly. "I've read the reports. I know what the other species say about us. What they do not say," Zaraki continued, "is what happened after. I researched this when I was trying to understand you. After the Kralgoth surrendered, humanity could have destroyed them. You could have claimed their worlds and their resources. Many species expected you to. Some thought you should." She turned to look at Jake directly. His green eyes met hers without any discomfort. "But you did not. Instead, humanity helped rebuild the Kralgath worlds. You established trade agreements and cultural exchanges. You turned enemies into neighbors. This part of the story does not spread as quickly, does it? Jake's expression was sad. No, it doesn't. People remember the fight, not the peace that came after. They remember the violence, but not the healing. Why? Zaraki asked. Why did humanity choose peace when you could have chosen conquest? Jake was quiet for a long moment. He turned his coffee cup in his hands, watching the dark liquid swirl inside. Finally, he spoke. Because we know what it's like to be afraid. Earth's history is full of wars. Conflicts between nations, between religions, between ideologies. We spent thousands of years fighting each other. We made a lot of mistakes. We hurt a lot of people. He looked back out at the stars. When we finally made it to space and met other species, we had a choice. We could be the monsters that everyone feared, or we could try to be better, to be the species that learned from its mistakes, to be the people who remembered that everyone out here is just trying to survive and protect their families and find their place in the universe. But you still fight when you must, Zaraki observed. Yeah, Jake agreed. We're not pacifists. We can't be. If someone threatens innocent people, if someone attacks those who can't defend themselves, we'll stand up and fight. That's never going to change. But fighting isn't all we are. It's not even what we want to be known for. Zaraki felt a deep understanding settle over her. You want to be known for what comes after the fight. For the peace you build. For the hands you extend. Jake turned to her and his smile was genuine and warm. Exactly. That's exactly it. We want to be known for our compassion as much as our strength. For our willingness to help as much as our ability to fight. In the days that followed, Zaraki worked to put her understanding into action. She began writing a comprehensive report on human behavior and culture. Not a dry academic text, but something personal, something that captured the truth she had discovered. She wrote about Jake's patience with a frightened crew. She wrote about his immediate decision to save a child on a dying ship. She wrote about how he sat on the floor to make himself less threatening. She wrote about his family and his dreams and his love for coffee and hiking. She wrote about how humans were capable of both great violence and great compassion, how they could be fierce warriors but also gentle friends, how they fought when they had to but always hoped for peace. She shared her findings with her colleagues. She gave presentations to the xenobiology department. She transmitted reports back to her homeworld's academic institutions. Slowly, word by word, she was changing how people thought about humans. Jake supported her work completely. He answered endless questions with patience and humor. He showed more pictures from Earth. He shared human music, teaching crew members about different styles and genres. He even tried to teach some of them a human game called chess. The game was interesting to Zaraki. It was a war game, but one that rewarded thinking and planning over brute force. The objective was not to destroy all your opponent's pieces, but to trap their king, to make continued conflict pointless. It seemed very human to her. They could fight, but they preferred to win by making fighting unnecessary. One day, Zaraki received a message from the Galactic Council's Cultural Exchange Division. They had read her reports. They were impressed. They wanted to expand the Human Liaison Program. More humans would be assigned to research vessels, exploration ships, and diplomatic outposts throughout the galaxy. The goal was to help other species see what Zaraki had seen. That humanity's reputation needed updating, that the stories about them were incomplete. When she told Jake, his reaction was pure happiness. He smiled so wide that Zaraki could see most of his teeth. That's amazing, he said. You did that. You changed minds at the highest levels of galactic government. We did it, Zaraki corrected. Your actions gave me something important to write about. Your kindness gave me hope to share. Jake looked thoughtful. You know, when I accepted this assignment, I was nervous. I knew what other species thought about us. I was afraid I'd mess it up and make things worse for all humans. But you did not. Zaraki said firmly. You were yourself, and that was enough. More than enough. I had a good teacher, Jake said, smiling at her. Someone who was willing to look past her fear and see me as a person. That took real courage. They sat together in comfortable silence, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, more humans would soon be making contact with other species, extending bridges of understanding, sharing smiles that would hopefully be understood for what they were. Invitations to friendship. Jake, Zaraki said after a moment. I have a request. Anything, Jake said immediately. When your tour of duty ends and you return to Earth, I would like to come with you. There is much about human culture I still wish to learn, and I believe I could help other xenolinguists understand your people better. Jake's smile grew even wider. Zaraki, I would be honored. Sophie is going to be so excited. She's been asking about you in every message. She wants to know what colors you turn when you're happy. Zaraki's skin flashed through a sequence of pleased colors. I will show her. I do not wish to frighten your family the way I was frightened. They're going to love you, Jake said with certainty. My mom will probably adopt you. She adopts everyone, and Danny will have a million questions about your homeworld. I look forward to meeting them, Zaraki said, and she meant it completely. She had come so far from that terrified xenolinguist who had stood in the airlock, afraid to look at the human's face. Now Jake was her friend, her trusted colleague, someone she admired deeply. The galaxy was slowly learning what she had learned, that humans were not monsters, that their smiles were not threats, that beneath their capacity for violence was an even greater capacity for kindness, hope, and love. 6 months after Jake Morrison first stepped aboard the Stellar Dawn, Zaraki stood before the Galactic Council's Assembly of Cultural Understanding. It was a smaller group than the main council, but it was still important. These were the representatives who worked to help different species understand each other and reduce conflicts caused by misunderstanding. The chamber was large and filled with representatives from 47 different species. Every one of them was watching her, waiting to hear what she had to say. Zaraki's skin flickered nervously for a moment. Then she remembered Jake's smile and felt calmer. She had something important to share, something the galaxy needed to hear. Honorable representatives, she began. Her voice was translated into dozens of languages at once. I stand before you to speak about humanity, but I will not tell you the story you already know. I will not talk about the Battle of New Ares or list the combat capabilities of human soldiers. Those stories have been told enough. She activated the holographic display. An image appeared above her. It showed Jake sitting on the floor of the Stellar Dawn, his tablet in his hands showing her pictures of his family. It was a moment she had captured without him knowing, a memory she treasured. Instead, I want to tell you about Jake Morrison, a human who sat on the floor to make himself less frightening to a xenolinguist who had been taught to fear him, a human who risked his life to save a child from a species he had never met before, a human who drinks coffee while looking at the stars and dreams of a galaxy where his people are known for more than their ability to fight. She changed the image. Now it showed the Quellan child Jake had rescued. The boy was healthy and happy, smiling in a way that looked almost human. Humans have a saying. They say that actions speak louder than words. I have witnessed human actions over these past 6 months, and those actions speak of a species far more complex than our current understanding suggests. Yes, humans can be fierce warriors. Their evolution on a harsh world has made them strong and determined. But that same evolution has also made them remarkably kind and understanding. Zaraki paused. Her skin shifted to a pattern of earnest conviction. We fear them because we do not understand them. We see their teeth when they smile and we think it means aggression. This is because in many of our species, showing teeth is threatening. But for humans, a smile is different. It is an invitation. It is a bridge. It is their way of saying they mean no harm, that they want to know you, that they want to be friends. The chamber was completely silent. Every representative was listening carefully. Zaraki continued, I propose that we expand the human liaison program throughout the galaxy, not just on research vessels, but everywhere. Let humans live among us. Let them work beside us. Let them share their culture with us. Let us learn to see past our fear and discover who they truly are. A representative from the Vexian Assembly raised a hand. The Vexians were known for being very careful and cautious. And if humans prove to be as dangerous as we fear? If this proposal leads to conflict? Zaraki had known someone would ask this. She changed the image again. Now it showed humans and Quellans working together after the rescue, helping each other, their differences forgotten. Then we will deal with that conflict as intelligent beings should, through communication, through understanding, through finding common ground, she said firmly. But I do not believe it will come to conflict. In 6 months of working closely with Lieutenant Morrison, I have observed a species that values cooperation, a species that celebrates diversity, a species that seeks connection with others. She looked around the chamber, meeting as many eyes as she could. Are there bad humans? Yes, of course. Just as there are bad individuals in every species represented in this chamber, but bad individuals do not define an entire species. We must judge humans by their best, not by their worst. Zaraki deactivated the holographic display. She spoke from her heart now, letting her true feelings show. Before I met Jake, I was terrified. The night before his arrival, I could barely rest. I had heard all the stories. I believed all the warnings. I thought his smile would be the last thing I saw before he attacked me. Her skin shifted to deep blue with gold traces, the color of profound truth. But his smile was not a threat. It was the beginning of understanding. It was the start of friendship. And I believe that if others are given the same chance I was given, they too will see what I now see. That humanity's greatest strength is not their ability to make war. It is their capacity for hope, for compassion, for reaching across the emptiness between stars and species to say we are different, but we can be friends. The vote took 3 hours. Representatives debated and discussed. They asked questions. They raised concerns. But in the end, the measure passed. 41 representatives voted in favor. 6 chose not to vote either way, but none voted against it. The Human Liaison Program would expand throughout the galaxy. Hundreds of humans would be assigned to ships and stations and diplomatic posts. They would live among other species. They would share their culture. They would show the galaxy what Zaraki had learned. When Zaraki returned to the Stellar Dawn, she found Jake in the observation lounge. He was in his usual spot, looking at the stars, holding his coffee. When she told him the news, his face transformed with joy. "You did it," he said, standing up to face her. "You actually changed minds on the Galactic Council." "We did it," Zaraki insisted. "Your kindness, your patience, your actions, those gave me something real to talk about, something true to share." Jake looked out at the stars again. His expression was thoughtful and a little emotional. "You know, this is bigger than just me. This is going to change things for all of humanity. For the first time, the galaxy is going to see us as we really are, not just as warriors, but as people. You were nervous when you first came here," Zaraki remembered. "You thought you might make things worse." "I was terrified," Jake admitted. "I kept thinking about all the ways I could mess this up, all the ways I could confirm every bad thing people believed about humans. But you did not," Zaraki said firmly. "You were patient. You were kind. You were yourself. And that was exactly what was needed." Jake smiled at her, that warm, genuine smile that she had once feared and now cherished. "I had help. You gave me a chance when you had every reason not to. You looked past your fear and saw me as a person. That took real courage." They stood together looking at the stars. Out there, the galaxy was changing. More humans would soon be making contact. More friendships would form. More understanding would grow. "Jake," Zaraki said, "I have been thinking about our plan. When you return to Earth and I come with you." "Yeah?" Jake asked. "I want to write a book," Zaraki said, "about my experiences, about what I learned, something that can be shared with every species in the galaxy, so that others do not have to be as afraid as I was, so they can learn faster what took me weeks to understand." Jake's smile grew wider. "That's a great idea. I'll help you with it. We can include perspectives from other crew members too, show how everyone's view of humans changed. And pictures," Zaraki added, "like the ones you showed me, of human families and cities and culture, so people can see all of humanity, not just the warriors. We'll call it The Truth About Smiles," Jake suggested. Zaraki's skin flashed with pleased colors. "Perfect." In the weeks that followed, they began working on the book together. Jake shared more stories and pictures from Earth. Other crew members contributed their own experiences of learning to understand humans. Pix wrote about how Jake had been patient with his fear. The rescued Quellan mother wrote about how a human had saved her son. Word spread through the galaxy about Zaraki's presentation to the council. Other xenolinguists reached out, asking for advice on working with their own human liaisons. Scientists requested her research data. Teachers wanted materials for their students. Humanity's reputation was changing. Slowly but surely, the galaxy was learning what Zaraki had learned. That humans were not monsters, that their smiles were not threats, that beneath their fierce exterior was a deep capacity for kindness, friendship, and love. One evening, Jake received a message from his family. His niece Sophie had sent a video. She was jumping up and down with excitement, holding her cat Mr. Whiskers, asking when she would get to meet Zaraki. Jake showed the video to Zaraki. She watched the happy child and felt a warm feeling spread through her. This was what humanity really was. Not the warriors in the stories, but the families and children and people who just wanted to connect with others. She will like me, Zaraki asked, a little nervous. She's going to love you, Jake said confidently. You're going to be her favorite person in the whole galaxy. Zaraki's skin shifted through happy colors. She had traveled so far from that scared xenolinguist standing in the airlock, afraid to look at the human's face. She had learned that fear often came from misunderstanding, that the scariest things sometimes became the most wonderful once you understood them. She had learned that humans were not defined by their capacity for violence, but by their choice to be kind, despite it. That their smiles were not warnings, but promises. Promises that they would stand up for the weak, that they would risk themselves for strangers, that they believed in something better than fear. Jake Morrison had taught her all of this, not through words but through actions, through patience and kindness and genuine friendship. He had shown her what humanity truly was, and now, thanks to both of them, the galaxy would know too. The old stories about ruthless human warriors would not disappear, but they would be balanced by new stories. Stories about humans who sat on floors to seem less scary, about humans who saved children from dying ships, about humans who extended their hands in friendship and smiled with hope. The galaxy was learning, and Zaraki was proud to be the teacher.